Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Wednesday, January the 18th, 2017, and I have the great honor and very distinct pleasure of welcoming back to the show Mr. Bill Murphy, who is the chairman of GATA, and he also operates La Metropole Cafe, which is a must for any precious metals bug out there. Bill, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back, Rory. Thank you very much.
Well, we've got a lot to cover, so we'll just get right to it. How about it?
Sounds good to me.
All right. First and foremost, Bill, I want to thank you and Chris Powell for your continued efforts in exposing the now confirmed bank manipulation of the gold and silver markets.
Well, I appreciate it coming from you, Rory.
Well, without your tireless efforts to keep what may be the most important issue of our time in front of as many people as possible, something, Bill, has finally given way and the lies and suppression are fully exposed. Now, if we can only get people in mass on board with this idea of gold and silver being money, then maybe we can make some headway and not be as frustrated as we are.
Well, and if I may, we can discuss it. For me, the most important thing we can actually do for people is to let them know how artificially low these suppressed prices are. And that's the reason they should be paying close attention. It's one thing to hear about this fraud. It's another thing to know what it can do for you and take advantage of it. If gold had kept up with inflation, it would be $3,300. So that's what's coming when they blow up. So that's the reason to know what GATA knows. And for some reason, a lot of people in the industry don't want to go there, and yet we're the most bullish people of all.
There you go. I mean, how do you see these lawsuits? How do you see where do they go from here, or are they just done?
No, I think they take forever, and I think there'll be other surprise developments that come out of nowhere like these have. And it's a question of when it gets to the real issue of what's going on in the United States on the COMEX, and that to be exposed, and that's what needs to be done. I mean, what people have seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg, and of course, the actual conversation was horrifying.
Horrifying.
And that's the way it's been. That's what Andrew Maguire told me in 2010 when he met with the J.P. Morgan traders. That's how they laughed at everybody.
Yeah, it's incredible how Mr. Maguire has been vindicated in his testimony. And weren't you at that CFTC meeting in 2010?
Yeah, I was the one who got it introduced via our good friend who died, Adrian Douglas, and Andrew thought he was going to speak and present it, and they wouldn't let him. So he had me. We wrote up something, and I had all the information, and Bart Chilton had it, and he gave me time to get up and answer a question and explain what Andrew had said.
Because what happened is that you guys presented this, or you presented this information directly to the people that are supposed to be overseeing this. Then they go into this nonsense of this the so-called 5-year investigation. They couldn't find anything, and come to find out what you had presented 7 years ago had already manifested at the exact same time that you had presented and said, this is what's going to happen. And then come to find out it happened exactly at that same time.
You've nailed it perfectly, and it's so well said, and that's how big a scandal it is. The same government officials have fined these bullion banks for every kind of market rigging thing in every market you can think of, and the only one they couldn't find was in silver.
How convenient.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be an incredible scandal someday.
Well, we can only hope more sooner than later. And
yeah, as I said, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, are we done with the slaps on the wrist, or will there be more slaps on the wrist, or will the mining sector finally unite and make something happen? Because in my opinion, Bill, without the miners creating a united front, nothing will change as far as this price suppression, manipulation, all of this. Without these guys holding their product back and saying, we're not playing this game anymore. You're stealing us blind.
You're
Until
so right, but it's hopeless.
why is that?
Because outside of Keith Newmeyer, we haven't heard from anybody to even talk about it after all this, we just got into. And, when I went to see at this same time in 2010, met with the World Gold Council, I had to sign a document that I wasn't even there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's how bad it is. I had to sign a document that we couldn't talk about to tell anybody we were there.
Wow.
So the industry, and I've been there. I've been to South Africa many times, and I've met with various miners. And way back in the beginning, Wayne Murdy, when he was the head of Newmont Mining, I sent him an email. It was way in the beginning of the internet, really getting going. And his secretary sent an email back to me that they never got my email. I mean, you can't make this up.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, I'm optimistic, but only because the market's going to blow up. That the gold cartel's going to all the stuff they've done all these years, the prices are going to go bananas. So I'm extremely excited about that. And eventually the scandal will be exposed and it'll be one of the biggest financial stories in U.S. history, but only until a Madoff occurs or Enron, until they blow up, nobody's going to touch it.
Well, I've got a question that may expose some of that I'm going to ask in just a moment. But I wanted to ask you about right now, as far as the beginning of this year in comparison to the beginning of 2016. It seems like, from my perspective anyway, that this year is much stronger. It's a much stronger beginning of the year than last year. And how do you see that playing out over the next 6 to 8 months, maybe the remainder of the year? How do you see 2017 panning out?
Well, I'm probably perennial bullish. You could call me one of the gold cheerleaders that they mock all the time, because I know how undervalued it is and what's coming. And I think you can go to all-time highs this year, and silver is going to take out 50.
Okay.
And I think and you're right. It started out the first few weeks much better. Of course, anyway, I'm just bonkers about what they did, and I think they know what's coming. And it's why they're going to have to reflate to save the system. I mean, inflate, they're going to need to inflate the system to save the system. And you're going to have prices are going to take off, and gold and silver, because of where they are, going to go bonkers. And that's why they orchestrated what they did, in my opinion, after the Trump win, because not one person in the investment world said the markets would do what they did if Trump would win. No one said, well, if Trump won, it would be so bullish for the market, but he's never going to win, so we don't believe it can ever happen. No, they said if he wins, it's going to be a disaster. Everyone. And it went just the opposite, like something I've never seen before, with Dow going up and gold going down. And that was all orchestrated by all the money and power, because they were petrified of what's coming.
Do you think that? Go ahead.
I know that's just that's my thought. I feel really strongly about it. I've never seen anything in 40 years of watching the markets more ridiculous.
Do you think that Trump is going to be able to strong arm the Fed? And do you foresee more QE coming back to the table?
Well, I leave that to smarter people. All I know is I know what they did, and I think I know what's coming. And gold and silver are going to go bonkers, and they're trying to stop it again after making a fortune, wiping out the speculators. But when the physical market aids the speculators that are coming back in, at some point it's just going to blow. And we've been waiting for this for some time, and now I think that the catalysts are all there to make it happen.
Do you think that Trump's presidency, with the inauguration just a couple of days away, Bill, I mean, who knows? I mean, they may push the Dow well above 20,000 just because they can. I mean, with everything that we already know, how do you see the inauguration impacting the gold and silver market, if at all?
No, I don't put any focus on it. You never know what they have in mind behind the scenes. I would like to focus on what they did, and they set up. I think because they know what's coming for gold and silver. That this has been, an incredible long haul, and they're finally going to reach the point because of the inflation trades coming.
Well, I want to kind of change gears a little bit here, Bill, and I want to look at what's happening with the Shanghai Gold Exchange, and I've been following the movement on the Shanghai Gold Exchange of this premium backwardation, whatever you want to call it, for the last 2 or 3 months, and it has been steadily climbing. The
I
backwardation premium at the Shanghai Gold Exchange, is this going to morph into an arbitrage situation where people are taking physical gold and silver off the COMEX and LBMA and delivering it into the Shanghai Gold Exchange? Or is it going to morph into some type of signal to the marketplace? I mean, what do you think, Bill, about what's happening with this?
I don't know if it's the same grade or fineness in the Shanghai Exchange, but I mean the premiums they've actually come down what they were a few weeks ago.
Yes.
They're still way up there. It's a question of to arbitrage what the mechanics are and how long it takes to set it up. But you would think it would. I can say this: the strength we've had strength all year, except for a few nights in Asia over the U.S. markets, and then they kill it at Plan A time in London, which the gold cartel attacks, try to knock it down. But you've constantly had stronger prices in Asia, and it's got to be an influence. I mean, it's not a make-up world. I mean, China does exist, so you know. It's some point, and it's having its effect. It's just been gradual and steady. That's why part of the reason the gold and silver markets have moved up so steadily the past few weeks.
It's because of the strength coming out of Asia.
Well, that's aided it. I mean, that's been a factor for sure. I mean, because that's 4 out of 5 nights the markets are higher in Asia.
Yes.
So I mean, it's making an impact, but it's been a labored one, and we as you know we've gone. If you look at a chart, the gold and silver charts, they're just like a steady horizontal line up.
Yeah, it has been moving steadily to the upside for quite some time now.
Yeah,
And,
it's been
and
3 or 4 weeks.
I mean, well, it could go back all the way to the now failed attempt by India to ban cash, and when that happened, and Dave and I were talking about this on the Shadow of Truth a few days ago, and I had suggested that when those premiums on the Shanghai Gold Exchange got to an extreme, they were up there above $50 an ounce on gold,
That's right.
and at that time, that was right when Modi had made his announcement about pulling the 500 and 1,000 rupee banknote from the system, and said you got to turn them in, you got to do something with them. And my theory is that people in India were somehow purchasing gold from the Shanghai Gold Exchange through brokers or whatever, and bringing that gold into India with all of that Indian, with all those rupees that were now had to go. They had to go somewhere.
Well,
So,
why wouldn't they buy the cheaper U.S. prices?
well, that's a good question. I mean, like I said, I don't know. It just seemed like that those premiums on the Shanghai Gold Exchange spiked at the same time as these rupees were being gotten rid of.
There could be. I mean, that's as good a thing as any, I suppose. I mean, I got no clue, so it could be right on the money.
Well, I mean, there's no way to prove it, but I mean, it just seems like it lined up just about perfectly. But I mean, the premium is still, or arbitrage, whatever it is. I look at it as backwardation. and it's it's still in the mid 20s, and it started out below 10, and then over the course of, like I said, the last 2 or 3 months, it's just continually moving higher and higher and higher. And it just seems like that it is going to provide us with some type of signal that says we have a serious problem.
Well, I think that's going to be just part of it, absolutely, along with all the other things that matter. Nothing has mattered about the gold and silver markets. They're fundamentally bullish. Not one thing in years. Nothing. Nothing matters except the gold cartel. And at some point, all these things that haven't mattered all of a sudden will, probably at the same time, because they're going to be just what you said. They're going to be overpowered. And it's just going to be too much for them in the physical market to stop, to come up with supply. I mean, I thought this was happening last year, and it was not true.
Well, I did too. I've thought it for years. So
I thought it for years too. I mean, but at some point it does happen. And because of what they've done, the move up will be much bigger and much faster than anybody can conceive of, in my opinion.
are you still looking at that 2125, 2150 mark as being on silver, as far as being the first real leg to the upside?
Yeah, the near term it's 1720, which we were at this morning, but and that's first base. But the big one for silver to explode will be 21 even.
Oh, 21 even. Okay. So if it breaches that and then holds for 2 or 3 trading days, then we should be off to the races.
It should go bonkers.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for that.
I know too.
And I want to look at the gold silver ratio. And I was listening to Mike Maloney and David Morgan a couple of days ago discuss this, and I wanted to get your take on it. Does the gold silver ratio have a place in today's world? We know the natural ratio is approximately 9.5 to 1 silver to gold. But since gold nor silver are currency, nor are they part of any marketplace that is known, why should the average gold silver bug care about the gold silver ratio?
Well, I think it's because of I mean, silver is ridiculous in terms of its price down here, and we think it's the Achilles heel of the gold cartel. That they once it blows, they can't come up with a supply. It'll go nuts, and they won't be able to access it like they can gold. And hopefully, they've gone through a lot of their stash, and when it starts to move, it'll explode. I mean, there's no reason that ratio can't go down to, say, pick a number, but 20 to 1. Well, that means silver is going to go bonkers relative to gold over the next year or two, if I'm right.
Yeah, because right now it's somewhere around 70, 75 to 1.
Yeah, every time it got down to 68 or so, 67 and change, and it goes right back up after going up to 84. It's been at 70, 72 for some time, but it's just going to explode. So I think, yeah, it'll probably go to 20.
You're thinking 20? Okay, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'm just picking a number, but that's what I would guess.
Okay. And last question, Bill, then I'll let you get back to your morning. And I see that your compadre over there, Mr. Chris Powell, he's headed east to a couple of conferences that are coming up. And what conferences will we be able to find you in the coming months?
Well, I am going to go down to Acapulco in a month to do a Jeff Berwick thing he's doing, and that should be a lot of fun. And then I'm in April going to a symposium in Belgium, which I'll be speaking at, and I'm looking forward to meeting a whole bunch of new people. And I'd love to get out there and be more visible, but maybe next year it'll all change and we'll get invited back again. I hope so.
I hope so too, because I would think that with the revelations of the price suppression being confirmed at this point, that they would want you front and center. I mean, you're the ones that have been leading the charge.
Well, you would think so, especially after late when the WikiLeaks released a State Department memo, or whatever they call it, to explaining when the futures exchange was set up in gold, it was done to create volatility to prevent people from going to the physical markets. And
Yes.
it's exactly what Gada has talked about all these years of that the government is very concerned about the gold price and because of its effect on the dollar and interest rates. And that's the way it is. And now we have, a confirmation of everything that Gada's been talking about. And that's, again, just the tip of the iceberg. So it's very exciting from our standpoint, what's coming. But it's, heck, it's been 17 years. It's going to be 18 years now. So it's about time.
It's about time. And I misspoke. I've got one more question, Bill. And I'd said that gold and silver are not currency, nor are they part of a marketplace that is known. Isn't gold really part of our financial economic system at the global level? Otherwise, they wouldn't care about it. There wouldn't be all of these deliberate, planned attacks on the gold price, and there wouldn't be all of these things that you and I have discussed over the years. There wouldn't be any of that if it wasn't playing some type of role somewhere somehow within the either financial or economic markets, or am I just completely out of my mind in thinking that?
No, you've nailed it. I mean, that's it. And why people can't see that is beyond me. That's exactly right. Why they go to all this effort. And it's certainly the reason that the Russians have been buying as much gold as they feel appropriate, and the same with the Chinese. And the world knows this, and they've been able to stave off what's coming. I mean, since 2011, what gold and silver have done on the downside is ridiculous with all the QE and debt and everything. Was all the reasons for it to go up, but they needed gold to get back down, and they wanted to attack, and it's worked. But now I think that that's is unwinding, and they're just going to have trouble keeping the price down. And it's almost like a perfect storm is finally coming together, and I think it's going to be very exciting.
I think so too. I think that 2017 has great potential as far as the gold and silver markets returning to actual markets. And I hope I'm right.
Right.
But we've been speaking with Bill Murphy. You can find all of Bill's great work over at La Metropole Cafe, and he is also the chairman of Gada.org. And Bill, tell them about your service over there at La Metropole Cafe.
Well, first of all, if they want to get on the Gaida list, my colleague Chris Powell does a great job, and we've been friends and at it, you said, for all these years, and it's been a real privilege to get to know him. And they can go to www.gada.org and sign up for free, and then themetropolecafe.com I've been doing since September of 1998, and people can sign up for a 2-week free trial and see if it's of value to them. And I just can't wait to celebrate with all the good people that have been around us in the years ahead, and there's a lot to look forward to.
Yes, sir. I agree wholeheartedly. Well, Bill, it's been far too long since we last spoke, and I can assure you that's going to change this year, and we're going to have you back on a lot sooner than later.
Look forward to it, and say hello to Dave for me.
I'll do it.